Robert Redford on the way, but some more movies first.
Quickly, Albert Nobbs, which is a pet project for Glenn Close, a role that she played on theatre back in the 1980s. She plays butler working in a hotel. She's apparently Albert Nobbs. She's apparently a man, but she's actually been living as a man for most of her life, terrified of being discovered until she accidentally comes across a similar soul in the form of Janet McTeer. Here's a clip.
So why are you dressed like a fella?
No one would have suspected me till the day of my death. If it hadn't been for the flea you brought in.
So, Mr. Nobbs, what do you suggest we do now, as far as the sleeping arrangements are concerned? Any ideas? Go on. You take to that. Go downstairs. I'll find me a sofa or something.
No.
So, what then?
Mrs. Baker will have my hide. If she finds out you didn't sleep here, you take the bed.
And where will you sleep?
Here. I don't mind.
Don't be pathetic.
No, please. I know her. Just promise you won't tell.
It's an interesting film which appears to some extent to be absolutely crying out for awards recognition, which it got, but it has to be said, not much more than that. There's a really interesting scene in it in which the characters who have been cross-dressing for large part of their life decide to go out dressed as women, and it's very, very clever because it's playing with what your preconceptions of them being male or female are, and it's basically women who have dressed as men now dressing as women but looking like men dressed up as women, and it's all to do with the gait, it's all to do with the walk, it's all to do with the stance. And at that moment you realise that you're watching two really terrific performances, because just by turning the trick on its head you suddenly realise exactly what the little details are that they've got right. For a lot of the rest of the film, there is a strange uncertainty about the way the roles play out. I mean, I like the idea of it. I like the fact that it's a fairly brave subject to take on because it invites ridicule so easily. And actually, for most of it, it does manage to keep a kind of a melancholic dourness, which I think is quite effective. It is, however, in the end, fairly dramatically inert. And you do end up kind of admiring the performances from a distance, admiring the fact that the story isn't descending into ridicule, and yet somehow never quite settling into exactly what it's trying to be. So it was one of those peculiar cases in which, I mean, I know there are some people who don't like the film at all and find that dramatically it is a stretch. I think that Glenn Close's performance is very good. I think that the nominations were deserved. I think that there are moments in it when you realise just how good the work you're watching on screen is. But I'm not sure that that's enough to say, go see it. It's probably one of those things that if you bumped into it on television, you'd be strangely drawn in by it. But if you went to the cinema, you might find yourself losing patience with it, which is not to say that there aren't two great performances. There are, but there's not a great film around those performances.